I still don't know what turmeric does, by the way, other than add color. It's a pigment, right?
You are dismantling whole of South Asian cuisine.
We're not supposed to ask these questions. Let's hear from the Ayurveda folks in the comments.
We are very pleased to welcome to Rannaghore Ke journalist Shoaib Daniyal. Shoaib is a political journalist for the online news publication Scroll, where he writes and edits columns, hosts shows, along with a multitude of his other duties. Shoaib works in Delhi but is originally from Kolkata. He grew up in central Kolkata, coincidentally in the same neighborhood that I grew up in. And I think in this episode, he does a very good job of presenting the nuances of life that was in the diverse multi-ethnic setting of 90s central Kolkata. And the dishes he chooses to cook in this episode reflect that. Shoaib also talks about some of the challenges that face journalism and journalists in India today, particularly the problem of monetizing a public interest good such as the news. As a traditional mainstream journalist, he also engages very seriously and in a balanced manner with the phenomenon of independent online creators entering the journalism space to inform and educate audiences. We had a lot of fun shooting this episode and listening to Shoaib's stories and insights. Namaskar Bondhugan, you are watching Rannaghore Ke, a fun adda with old and new friends about food, life and everything else. This is episode 10 with Shoaib Daniyal.
Shoaib, অত সাইডে যেও না, হ্যাঁ তুমি
right.
Don't go to the wall, তাহলেই হবে।
ঠিক আছে, আমি ফ্রেমটা দেখে নিয়েছি। বেসিক্যালি ইট ইজ I cannot move left of this burner basically.
এমনিতে যখন তুমি প্রেপ করছো এখানে করছো রান্না করছো এখানে করছো, you will not have to worry about it because you will automatically be in this region, ঠিক আছে?
এটা হলো পারলে একটু পিছনে থাকবে, কারণ এই চিমনি শ্যাডোটা পড়ে
for tall people it's a problem.
পুরো পিছনে যেতে হবে না, যাই হোক।
But don't focus on that too much, it's fine like.
True.
Actually,
হচ্ছে যখন আড্ডা, do I have to say anything when we start?
No.
It will be good fun.
You don't দাঁড়িয়ে আছো। No, so okay, let's start with what you are making today.
I'm going to make 3 dishes. কি ইংরেজিতে কথা বলবো কি বাংলাতে কি মিক্স?
Mix. Whatever comes like naturally.
Naturally, ঠিক আছে। So I'll make 3 dishes. একটা হচ্ছে chaanp, which is some Bengali Urdufication of the word chop. Second thing is I'll be making a dry liver, which my nani claims she has learned from Blue Fox, but we'll have to fact check that claim later on. I mean, this is a modification of a Blue Fox recipe. Nana খেয়ে এসেছিল. And third recipe, it's a sort of interesting, in little hatke, is we're making something called a seyal, which is probably pronounced seyal something. Sindhis should correct me in the comments. My nani's house is in a very one of the unknown facets about Calcutta. It's in a Sindhi area. So we lived in a Sindhi building at that time. So we have learned a lot of Sindhi recipes, and this is a quick tea time snack which we make with leftover bread. Originally I think it was made with leftover roti, but now it is repurposed to leftover bread. এই তিনটে রেসিপি বানানো হবে।
In which order do you want to start? Like, do you want to do
I think let's set off the chaap first because that'll take the most time, and then we can go for the liver and the seyal.
So you want to marinate the chaap first, right? So I'll get everything. These are the mutton chops that we got from a shop in Kalanga.
I mean, Kalanga is, I think the English name is Colin Lane. Although I think Colin has come from Kalanga. Kalanga is some old Bangla name, Kalanga Bajar, and it's a very old place, probably older than Calcutta. Now it was once upon a time a very Anglo-Indian heavy area. Some Muslim residents also, but I think now there are fewer Anglo-Indians and more Muslims. So এখানে খুব ভালো বাজার বসে, সবজি পাওয়া যায়, মাংস পাওয়া যায়, সকালে ডালপুরিও পাওয়া যায়. We went and bought. So we've always traditionally bought from there. Although we're close to New Market, but for some reason our meat shopping was always from Kalanga.
Yeah, same in my house also. Like our rest of the mall came from New Market, but the meat shopping was from Kalanga.
Meat shopping came from Kalanga. So yeah, this is my aunt's, my khala's butcher. This is basically what a chop is, what a chaap is. So it's the rib cut transverse. It's a thin piece of meat. Anybody who's been to Calcutta, eaten in any Mughlai place, you will get your chaap. I think the why it's so good and why it's so tasty is because it's transverse, very thin. So I think it marinates very well. It absorbs the moshla, everything. It absorbs the flavoring and the seasoning. This is my nani's recipe. This is kind of different from what you'll get in a restaurant. I think it's not as rich. So this is her take on it. She has specifically told me to credit all her recipes, so I'm like making sure.
So do you make this a lot in your day-to-day cooking? Like, you don't live at home with your family, you live away in Delhi. So is this something in your repertoire of dishes that you cook for yourself?
So yes, I love to do recipes. They're kind of easy to cook also, except the only problem I faced in Delhi, it's not a big problem, but they don't understand the word chaap. Because it's not a cut that people in Delhi buy very often. So Delhi, this piece will just be given as a assortment of meat. You'll go and say कि हमको आधा किलो गोश्त चाहिए. So you might get 2 chaap in that, which is something that we would never do in my house. Chaap means you're making chaap.
And what you were saying the other day, that this is one of those dishes where you go actually by cut rather than just by the kilo.
This is the one white thing we do where we buy a cut of meat, because I'm very fascinated. Whenever I read recipes from the West, they always so particular shoulder কিনতে হবে, এটা আমরা তো কখনো এইসব করি না, ঠিক আছে? শুধু গিয়ে দিই আধা কিলো মাংস দিয়ে দাও ভাই, and then ওর পরে দেখা যাবে what is it. If it's a bad cut, you cook it for 15 minutes more or whatever.
You want to paste all of the masalas together?
Half a kilo. 1 tablespoon ginger, 1 tablespoon garlic should be enough.
Remove the clutter from there.
I'll do it once again.
না চাপটা হাতটা হবে
না ওটা ঠিক আছে, ওটা ভালো লাগছে দেখতে, ভালো লাগছে দেখতে।
Wow, those are some.
So এটাকে উপরে বসাই তাহলে। I think this much garlic should be.
So in my house we put more garlic supposedly to hide smell.
And no chilies here, right?
We will put red chili powder.
মানে গোটা পেঁপে নাকি খোসা শুধু?
না খোসা ছাড়িয়ে
পেঁপে. Do you prefer doing any of this cutting?
No, please. Okay. I'm very bad at being embarrassed because I cut like a child.
It's also quite rude to like have a guest over and not let them do anything. মানে তোমারও লাগবে না. I'll have to further divide it.
The এইটা basically what Insia is cutting is the raw papaya, which is a meat tenderizer. Basically, this is a pre-pressure cooker recipe. So to cook it quickly, we add this meat tenderizer, which in this case is raw papaya. I mean, I guess you could theoretically cook it without it. Half an hour, it'll just take an hour.
Okay, so this much?
Yeah, this much is enough.
I'm just paste hobe. I'm just making them.
এখান থেকে সরবো না তো।
So does this smell kind of okay?
Beautiful.
Pepper basically kori because you will need it in other recipes also, no?
We'll need it in the liver also. My mother always adds some gota pepper because she loves to bite on pepper.
Let's see how much.
Not too much. Teaspoon of this fresh pepper. So this is something that a regular combination in my house. Roshun, ada, guro lanka and pepper. Pepper has that deeper heat. I'm not sure how they cook it in the Mughlai restaurant, but in my house, mangsho mane sorshe tel, and I think it's in my opinion, but maybe I'm brainwashed. I think it's a very good connection. I love khasir mangsho and sorshe tel. I think we managed to get some good meat, by the way.
Yes.
আর এগুলোকে আমরা এসে একটা ট্রেতে রেখে দিয়েছি, so it's actually become quite dry.
So which is very good because this is a slight problem that I have with chaap because initially you start boiling it, which is not ideal. So this is, I don't know if you want to take a shot. This is what the close-up will look like. এটা মানে হাত দিয়েই করতে হবে because you really need to get it. Like I said, chaap is a thin piece of meat. The other thing that actually we should say is that when you go to the butcher, what I would tell them to do is isko halka sa peet do. So they'll take the chaap and they'll sort of bash it with the end of their cleaver. So that again, anyway, it was a thin cut of meat.
It increases the surface area and everything.
Exactly, right.
Okay, so how long does this need to be marinated for?
So you can marinate it overnight, but there's no need. I think you can for 2-3 hours will be enough.
Also, plus, especially because you also added the papaya. If you over marinate it, there is a danger of it becoming a bit pasty. Yeah. So we've actually done a television trick of marinating the day before.
Don't tell me.
Unfortunately, Shoaib will not be able to eat this. This is something that we are going to cook later on. So this is something that Shoptoshi marinated yesterday. So Shoaib, you are a journalist for The Scroll and you are a political editor. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yeah.
Affirmative. Apart from writing columns, what does the rest of your day-to-day at The Scroll involve?
Day-to-day at The Scroll, right, yeah. We're a small team, we're a small, nimble team.
So how small are we talking?
Our core edit team would be around 25 people, 20-25 people.
And to put it in perspective, you're calling that a small team based on?
I mean, say the Times of India would have 100 reporters, 200 reporters, something like that. So we're talking of those scales, maybe even more, right? Hopefully our footprint is big and you guys read Scroll. But so we're small that way. So a lot of what we're doing is kind of like we don't have a very well-defined role. So, you know, like if I'm asked to write on something and, you know, it's making the news and I find it interesting and I would do it. So, role kind of does a wide range of things. We do a lot of culture also. So, I have written on food. It's an exciting sort of space to be in, at least for me. Have you guys watched Pathaan?
No.
No.
Have you?
Of course, I had to watch it
yeah,
because
of course you watched it.
me and a friend watched a midnight show in Delhi, which was sold out. So, no, it was very enjoyable. And I mean, it's kind of interesting. So, you wouldn't think that, I guess, a guy who writes on politics writes on Pathaan. But I guess Pathaan is also a weird example, I guess.
Exactly.
You know, so
Like Pathaan is political. Exactly.
It is live in interesting times. All of us, all three of us, I think, same generation, we've grown up with Shah Rukh Khan, right? And to think that people are going to watch a Shah Rukh Khan film
to make a political point.
So weird, actually, if you think about it. I mean, you like him or hate him, you know, he was maybe a sex symbol, romantic symbol, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, Rajniti korte jacche. I find it interesting because Pathaan has some, I don't want to give any spoilers.
By the time this video will be released, trust me,
Wow.
Amra ja schedule cholchi, that is not going to be a problem.
Now we will add some birista. Birista ki kintu amader nanir badite we call this biryani in a very weird way. So eita we will we're not going to do it too much because we're also going to brown this once it is boiled. Diye diye jol diye di.
How did you start out being a journalist?
So I had a slightly unusual sort of path. I studied engineering like all smart boys.
No offense to smart boys.
Cancel now.
This will get you cancelled.
Politics. So I did engineering and then for some years I did consulting. Then something happened and I was getting very tired. I mean, consulting is good, but I don't think I wanted to do that for the rest of my life.
So consulting in which field?
Strategy consulting, business consulting.
Okay, I see.
So just helping out very rich people becoming already rich. This was in Gurgaon.
In Gurgaon, okay.
Which is an interesting place.
Sorry?
No problem.
I hope this is not your favorite shirt.
No.
Favorite shirt pore ki Rannaghore Ke ashen?
We are just going to put some water. Insia's boiled some water. At home when I'm doing jogad, I just put cold water, but that is a bad practice and you should not do it. I think it really impacts the
flavor, and also I think it's more energy efficient because gas
This is, now we'll cook this. It is like a dhakna diye. So the other option which many people in my family also do is we'll cook it in a pressure cooker.
So your career trajectory prashna ta shesh karo. You were in Gurgaon doing consulting.
So I Gurgaon consulting kochilam. Then I got a bit disillusioned with, I mean, I don't want to diss consulting. I think it's a fascinating field and I learned a lot and I was working with very smart people and I think a lot of the learnings are still with me and how to work and how to think and all of that. But for some reason, firstly it was prochur porishram, very hard work. So maybe I'm not built for it as a person. So I wasn't that motivated. These guys were just working their asses off. So that was one. Secondly, the output, I wasn't getting satisfied with it. I then went to Bombay to do what is called impact consulting, which is a sort of cheat thing where you do consulting, but you do it for development concerns.
I see.
Right. So then I did a lot across rural India. I even did a project in Bangladesh. Then I started writing a lot of freelance. I got a lot of free time.
So whom did you start writing for? And
I started writing for a variety of outlets.
And what political pieces?
Political, cultural. আমার actually cultural দিকে অনেক রুচি আছে, especially food and history. Sometimes I don't get time nowadays to write a lot about that, but hopefully, inshallah, I'll come back to that. I love writing about food. I love writing about where food intersects with culture, history. And also in India, since we have nothing written down. So, you can just like our famous biryani aloo, I think is just a false story, controversial opinion. Couple of things, aloo is such an expensive dish when Wajid Ali Shah is coming. So it's a foreign vegetable. It's like the avocado of its time. Plus, Wajid Ali Shah had a bloody menagerie. Mangshe taka thakche na, Wajid Ali Shah is a bit extreme. He had a court in Metia Buruj. So I'm sure he could afford a couple of kilos of meat for his evening lunch or afternoon lunch. I just think the aloo is very simple. Bengalis love aloo.
And it absorbs any flavor that you throw at it. So
it's a great thing.
ভালো খেতে বলে
কেন দেবে না বিরিয়ানিটা?
Exactly.
So, not some like big brain invention.
It's like an urban myth at this point.
It's
It's
like an
the urban legend, yeah.
And it's such a great story,
yeah.
right? Wajadri Shai, paisa nahi tha.
One notable thing about Shoaib is, I guess you can make out from his sense of humor, he's an avid shit poster. You have to follow him on Instagram.
His memes are just too much for most people.
So where do you find these?
Meme gulo এসব meme page থাকে.
I could tell you, but I would have to kill you.
This is again a weird thing, but I love dark humor. It really sets my, and endorphins going or whatever. Because a lot of it is extremely problematic and it's extremely politically incorrect. So I like to chato it a bit. It's highly patriarchal, Islamophobic, casteist, etc., etc. But I think you can also tell very good progressive stuff using dark humor. And I think to some extent, leftist, progressive, I don't know what word you want to use. When we give up that, you're giving up a big gun to fight your battle, because you can't always be saying, you can't always be giving an academic lecture. And you need Pathan, which will convince 85% of people that you can dance and also subscribe to some political ideology. Let's do the liver.
Seyalটা last-এ কর।
Seyalটা last-এ করি। Cool. Where do you want to throw this?
So the next তুই শর্ট তোল না একটা, তারপরে তো থ্রো এর প্রশ্ন উঠবে। আচ্ছা, এই সিচুয়েশনটা সপ্তর্ষি তৈরি করেছে, he is going to explain what is going on here.
Huh?
Why is the liver in milk?
Oh, soaking the liver in milk apparently gets rid of some of the like iron metallic taste of the liver. It doesn't really matter. You don't really need to do this.
I mean, it depends, I think, on personal.
I like the metallic taste. I don't know why I did it.
তুই কাটবি?
কাটতে পারি? তুই তো দেখো এরকম এই সাইজ, এরকম সাইজ, এই সাইজটা
Perfect. I'm transferring it.
না দাঁড়াও।
Oh, sorry.
The cameraman is
Oh, of course.
cleaning blood at this point.
I forgot you're doing a show. Better রান্না করতে হবে. I'm going to quickly boil this liver. I have only come to cook because of the beauty of your nani saying she would watch Khana Khazana. She would say, I'm only watching it for the utensils.
How do you want it cut?
So we'll just dice it up.
Pechon
Let me give it a
5%
shot.
bari dena.
I'm feeling a bit embarrassed that I'm doing no work. So we're going to just cut it into this size. Not too small, but not too big either.
Will you separate these?
Yeah, we'll have to separate these.
it's cooked.
Are either of you lefties?
No, like not physically.
Right, not physically. Good clarification. Further, I think we should also quickly test
Check
the
the-
chaap. The chaap has been on for now 25 minutes. So we're just going to check how done it is. So you're saying there's a lot of water which we will dry out. So this is the advantage of not cooking it in a cooker. We can check it. আর একটু হবে। So now what we're going to do is we're going to stir fry this with some onions, pepper, and my nani she claims that my nana ate a liver fry at Blue Fox, loved it, but it was 60 rupees at that time, so he could not go very often to Blue Fox. This was her take on it, let's say. Yeah, let's make this a little rich.
One of the things we found out when we got to know Shoaib is that we grew up very close to each other.
Right.
In the Newmarket, Wellesley area. You grew up in your nani's house, which is barely like 300-400 meters from my parents' house.
My nani's house is very close to Newmarket of Free School Street. And I'm going to make, that's why I chose to make the seyal. I wanted to get a little bit of local flavor. So it's a very interesting area, highly, যেটাকে কলকাতাতে কসমোপলিটন বুঝে গেল বলার আগে there's a lot of communities, it's a very, very varied thing. So it's very interesting. I really liked growing up, I think, there. Although I didn't realize it then, but now I really appreciate the sort of weird cross currents that were coming in and going out and, just so random. I think the first abuse I learnt was chariya. I didn't know what it meant. I think it means something very mild, idiot or something. My mother's all best friends are growing up. My mother's aunt, they were all Sindhis. So I was introduced. I think when you're 3 years old, you just make friends with the nearest guy.
So were you very involved in the locality, or like did you have a lot of friends around?
Yes, but actually the main people who've seen that pada, because that pada actually has declined now. So I think I was the last, the little bit to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were some residential areas and all. Declined, I guess, is my POV, because it's not my area anymore, but it's become very commercial.
Commercial, yeah.
For example, the Anglo-Indian community, which was very strong there, they have, moved to Picnic Garden.
The Bora Muslim community also, which was very strong there, has moved towards Topsha. But that is also because of another...
Chinese was a strong presence there. I remember growing up, my mother, whenever she had a very fancy place to go to a wedding, she would first go to the Chinese hairdresser. So all of this was there, which is... Unfortunately, it's there to some extent, but it's shifting. A new dynamic is coming in.
So, just explain a bit like the timeline of your family coming to Kolkata.
I think my family's been in Kolkata since my great-grandfather's time on both sides. What interesting thing happens is when the British leave, so the British don't leave immediately in 47 in Calcutta. They stay on actually, and there's a lot of sell-off in the New Market area, including New Market itself, and a lot of businessmen move in. One big community that moves in are the Sindhis. And one of the people who moves in is my Nana. He buys shops in New Market.
So what kind of shops were there?
He did many things. He once owned a sweet shop at the back of New Market called Friends Home, which apparently had very good gulab jamuns, so supposedly. Then he ran a music shop called Do Re Mi. The British were leaving, and these people, entrepreneurs were coming in, these Indian entrepreneurs were coming in. And of course, the Sindhi angle, there's a specific Sindhi angle because there was also an outflux from Karachi.
Right.
From Pakistan. I think there's a historian called Saz Agarwal who's looking to write on it. But I've just had one-on-one conversations with her. I hope she comes, because I want to also learn that these people that were so integral and part of my mother's and my aunt's life, where are they coming from, what are they doing, this, that. Like when I need to tell somebody in Bombay about it, I say South Bombay, but imagine it's very poor. so all the wealth has been there. And of course, it's seen this density of people coming in and going. For example, Gurgaon, when I remember living in Gurgaon, everything was just open. And in Calcutta, I think every square foot has had these multiple people come and go, and everybody just completely railroad it, absolutely. So that's an interesting kind of history to be a part of. So I don't know how, maybe it's some atlami that I'm doing now, but I didn't appreciate it when I was growing up. Because you were just growing up, right? You didn't know any other place. But now I kind of appreciated the fact that we were in this ethnic mix, which would kind of be rare now, even in Calcutta. What we're going to do is now we're going to just brown the liver a bit. এটা দিয়ে দিলাম onions লঙ্কা. So we actually don't want to get any color on the onions, but we just want to sweeten them. Last flourish. I put out the gas now because I think the freshness of the pepper is better maintained. We have our dry liver fry, allegedly from Blue Fox.
Lovely.
It is heavy.
Nice. And we should also probably show the bread at this point. I got of two different brands because...
we should. Because this is, I think, one really...
Sweet. That has become sweet.
साला पाउटा होता है तो heavy हो गया लो हमारे इटा हमने कोत्ते बच्ची ने. This is beautiful, I really miss this when I'm out of Kolkata.
Yes.
It's a distinctive bread,
It's a distinctive bread. No, but you were saying that one particular brand has become very sweet. Which one is that? I was not sure, so I got the two.
हमारा मोने नहीं हुए.
देखा तो brand का देखा. Beautiful branding also.
Yeah. Circus. And the Dilkusha Street is there.
Dilkusha.
A baker. And this is the Collins Street one. Amader bari kacha.
Oh, this is literally made in Collins. So this is apparently what
this is must be the one.
And what I can remember, we never see the branding. What you see is this yellow color wrapper.
There was this again this bias about this bread in my house is because it was believed that this bread was needed.
It's true.
By stomping on it. Hath roti, power roti, of course.
So this was explained to me as a kid.
Wait, what is this?
It's somebody's feet here. Do you secofy this or just emni?
This is a huge controversial point in my opinion. আমাদের একটা ধারণা হয়ে গেছে that যদি if you toast bread ওর পরে গ্যাস হয় না। So this is we'll have to run it by Krish Ashok here. I eat it plain because I can eat it plain. My mother would also like to eat it plain, but she can't because of
acidity.
Should I make a tea right now before we start on the sale routine?
I wouldn't mind that actually.
ঠিক আছে কি রকম দুধ চা? Explain what this concept of the sale is.
Sale or maybe it is seyal. It's a very smart Sindhi recipe. It's to use up leftover bread. And when I say bread, I think the original recipe is to do with roti. Haath roti, beche gelo. Then you use it as a you repurpose it as a breakfast. Growing up, I actually didn't much personally. I didn't like sale, but it's a huge family favorite and hit. আমরা কিন্তু সকালে নাস্তাটা কখনো খেতাম না, বিকেলে নাস্তা চায়ের সঙ্গে আর চায়ের পরে রাখা। Another weird quirk is we will only make sale in our family with this plain bread. Take a couple of onions and we're going to make a paste. এটা একটা মিক্সি লাগবে। So she would grate these onions. Take an equal amount of Right, now one final thing we'll have to puree is the...
As a journalist who has been working at this for many years, are you seeing any change in which the way news is reported or in the way journalism is being practiced in the current political climate?
So this is a loaded question. Journalism in India is going through a bit of a crisis. Large sections of journalists are unable or unwilling to do their jobs.
So in what ways do you feel that journalists, or you specifically personally, if you can speak to your experience, you are not being able to do the job that you wish you could? Or
see, there are a couple of reasons. One is a lot of journalism in India is corporate control. So there is less space to do a job just because of your corporate structure. There are many examples. Recently, a big media house was bought by a large corporation, and there were a lot of allegations raised about how the behavior of that media house now will change. And a lot of people have pointed out that the inflection was very sharp. It really changed its behavior after that. A lot of big journalists left. That's one. That's your most obvious thing. The more insidious thing I would say is that because there is a lack of way to monetize good journalism. People who are doing good work cannot properly monetize their models, and that's a problem.
Yeah. So the models that we see available today are for corporate large media conglomerates. The model is they are investor backed and they are also sponsor backed. Advertising revenue and investor revenue.
And very often the advertising revenue is from the government.
From the government, yeah.
If we can get models where readers pay for news. It's a long term, because not only India, it's a worldwide problem. One of the very irritating things that even I get irritated as a reader, that I will constantly come across paywalls. So Scroll is not paywall till now, and hopefully we will always keep our journalism, at least the important, what is our public interest thing, unpaywalled. But I can also see if someone else is paywalling their journalism, because at the end of the day, you cannot expect somebody to do something full time and not pay them a decent wage.
Correct. So in India, where do you think we are in terms of readers or viewers directly supporting news, and what kind of messaging works for them versus what does not?
I think right now in India it's in a very nascent stage. Reader revenue models are not great. I don't know, it's something maybe you guys also have seen in your world. There's no easy answer for this, because even I balk at paying for news, because you got so used to getting news free, right? So if I see a paywall, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's a resistance to what you're not used to on the internet, especially. Yeah.
And it's actually very interesting. It goes against the nature of the internet, because when you're thinking about paying, that means তোমার বাড়িতে একটা খবরের কাগজ আসছে, তুমি মাসের শেষে কাগজওয়ালাকে 200 টাকা দিচ্ছ, and you're not going outside that space. But the internet is not like that. You are simultaneously living in a space of 300 papers, and you have always been able to just go and pick up one article from here and pick up one video from here and pick up one this from here. And that is in a way the greatness of the internet, right? That there is no wall. That wall garden, there are no wall gardens here at all. We have to figure out a way that we can maintain some of that, and we can also pay the people who are producing this and working hard and producing this for this.
No, because one of the aspects of this is that whether we as readers want it or not, we are paying for news. If an advertisement is baked into the newspaper, the product itself factors in the cost of that marketing and that advertising. So you as a viewer are already paying for the news. Why not
pay for it upfront? And it's not a lot of money. News is such a amorphous product. ঠিক আছে, আমরা গিয়ে মাংস কিনলাম, we got 1 kilo of মাংস, আমরা খাবো এখন. So there is like no argument about the payment and the reward for that meat. But news, so for example, it's very easy to monetize business news because people are reading it to make money. If you are buying an FT, you're almost always buying an FT because you think it will help you to make more money. You're a stock trader, you're a finance executive, whatever it is. On the other hand, if you're reading a general newspaper, it's not like you're immediately going to gain out of it. Of course, you are going to gain hugely because you're going to live in a better society. But that's a very amorphous, long-term, diffused gain. Right? But the payment is real. That's not a diffused payment. So that's right. So that's the crux. It's a complex thing.
It's a harder sell.
It's a much harder sell because you're almost asking someone to do a moral thing. Rather than a financial. The alternative to that argument is paywalls. Then it's a straight thing. Then it's like buying meat. You pay 800 rupees, you will get the meat, or you will not get the meat.
And then every moment you will be judging whether the news I got was worth 800 rupees or not.
It's paywalled, so its public impact, it has a lot of public impact, but obviously it has less public impact if it wasn't paywalled. As a journalist, if I write something, I would want it to be read by
the maximum number of people.
Why else am I writing, right? As a journalism, we are a mass media animal. We are not academics. We're not writing for small audiences. My whole entire thing is to write for a big enough audience. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me, that's great. But at least, read me. So if a paywall is terrible for me personally, by the way, as my craft, because that means I'm restricting my own readership. But I can also understand if someone is so it's a thing, should my son drop out of school or should
your hypothetical son.
Hypothetical son. It's a great intervention, it's a hypothetical mama. So that is the thing, and it's a very good, and there are no easy answers, but it's such an important question. We are seeing what happens to countries without a strong press. I mean, it's just disastrous. Amartya Sen's big thesis is that democracy prevents famine, and when he says democracy, a key cog, a key part of that is a free press. So it's a tough question, but it's an answer we need also. So,
what do you think traditional journalists think of this kind of an ecosystem where independent content creators are coming in to talk about news and current affairs?
See, overall, there are many good points to it because I think it's good for us journalists to have feedback, but there are also negatives with it, that there is no editing process. A lot of it is good. For example, somebody like, let's say, a Dhruv Rathi, right? Now I might not agree with him all the time, or I might not think, but he I think educates his audience. So he's doing, he might not be a traditional journalist, but I would think that he's doing somewhat of my job also, which is also my job, that I want to educate people, I want to tell people more. But there are also, there are some extremely problematic channels on YouTube without any filters, without any editing, maybe incorrect news, we should put incendiary news, etc., etc. So that's a problem. Now, when we raise this problem, very often the counter is that the government says we will censor. That itself then, it's a problem that is an answer to a problem. Because now you brought in government censorship to what was once a very vibrant space. So if you look at the last, I think, decade, non-mainstream media, which is a very big term, has played a much better role than a lot of mainstream media in checking the government.
And now also a lot of mainstream traditional journalists who practice their craft in a traditional manner so far are leaving their jobs at major media outlets. Like one of the most high profile journalists right now is Ravish Kumar, who left his job at NDTV and he is now a full-time YouTuber, just like us.
So it's fascinating.
So Ravish Kumar's case, for example, when he was working at the NDTV, he must have had access to a pool of reporters who would feed into what he wrote for the primetime show and all of that.
So jetake tumi bolcho, that is basically what I would call news gathering. Right, so something has happened at X spot. Now, this news gathering itself is crumbling right now. I don't know about Ravish specifically, but in general, I would think most YouTubers don't have a team of news gatherers, which is the negative.
Which is by definition, right? Because by definition, they are independent, self-funded.
True. Although the counter
Creators.
to that is, if you look at any mainstream news channel, they also don't have news gathering. So one of the reasons why debates are so popular is because they require no money.
So who is doing the news gathering for channels these days?
I don't think anybody is doing the news gathering on channel. They depend on wire services. Very often what you see as news are plants.
Yeah.
So then you don't need anyone to report it because
You can sit at home
it's a
and-
give and take. That's why there are so many debates, because they don't want to do news gathering. They don't want to report the news. And there are many reasons for that. One is, like there are malicious reasons for political reasons. One other is just straight up economic reasons.
Logistics, yeah.
It's much cheaper for, to sit Insia and Shoaib down in a studio and just to
Have them trash it out, yeah.
Gladiator fight, no money involved at all. And there's a great showings. Now, YouTube in a way, like it exacerbates the problem, but it is not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is, like we talked about earlier, it's how do you monetize the news? I was talking to a friend, I think 2-3 days back, and I was telling them about Trinka's episode. And then we started discussing that there is nothing like this on mainstream TV, right? Which of course says something very good about you, but it also says something very bad about mainstream TV, that two people can beat a studio. I mean, and of course.
But of course, for us it is not sustainable. Like we did that as a one-off, and while doing that, we realized that it is not something that we can keep doing while also doing.
So I guess you guys are facing a very similar monetization problem.
Yeah, and because we felt utterly inadequate doing the work.
It's not a two-man production. It should. It is a 10-man production, basically gig. আর যাদের কাছে 10টা লোক আছে ওরা করছে না. So it's a weird space to be in, right? Refined oil, vegetable oil. I'm gonna pop some jeera into it. I'll pop it a bit. I'm just gonna get a little bit of color on the onion. Now we need to put the dhone.
What, the one bunch?
Let's put a lot.
A lot.
Because I don't know that.
It's expensive to eat meat than to eat carbs.
Maybe that is the origin, but it's so weird. Like so we put in the ginger, garlic, chilies, dhone, tomato, sada jeera. Now we have to only put the bread. Do we want the crust? Generally, we would throw off the crust actually. Honestly, let's put it.
Let's put the crust.
I like it actually.
I also like it. Yes,
put it. You've done a moral thing right now actually. Thanks.
Tell me how much.
75% diya do eta.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how you tear it because it's only going to be a mash in the end. So my family likes to mash this up, but I don't know, for some reason I like to leave some chunks. Oh, the most interesting Sindhi dish I think that we make in our house is macaroni, although it's pronounced macaroni. So I don't know how the Sindhis came across pasta, like they were the first brown people to use pasta. So the masala would be very similar to what we use in the sayel, except they will add macaroni and they will add aloo. And we eat it with roti. This is it, it's done. Let's hope we get this right. Oh,
Yes.
it's gone through completely. Some people put garam masala after putting off the gas, which is, I think, maybe smart, but for some people.
এই লাস্টে কনভারসেশনটা খুবই আমার এনলাইটেনিং লাগলো
On the slim chance that you've made it to the end of this video, you may be the kind of person who enjoys long-form content like this. Believe it or not, an even longer cut of this video is available for patrons over at Bong Adda, which you can sign up for through our website.